Hi everyone, welcome to Carolyn's Craft. This is my first ever video, so I'm probably going to be a little stumbling over my words. So, if you're going to give a negative comment, please at least give me some advice on how I can begin to improve. So I'm going to be showing you guys something that I personally am very close to, as it's something my grandmother used to do all the time. And that's knitting. I may also do a couple of videos on crocheting as well, if you guys are interested. And yeah, let's begin. So to start knitting, the basics, you're going to need 2 knitting needles and some yarn. Make sure you have a fair bit of yarn because for small projects, even you need a good bit of yarn in order to do even small things like this simple cable knit stitch. So anyways, yeah, let's begin. So get a bit of yarn about this long, roughly 5 or 6 inches or so, and create a little loop. Twist it. Then get a bit of a tail right here, and create a slip knot by pressing it over and creating a pretzel shape, like so. Then taking a finger, pressing the part of the tail through, taking a knitting needle, slipping it through the loop you created there, and pinching both this little tail section and the long piece attached to the skein, and pull. That's your first stitch. Now, cast on about 12 stitches. To cast on, I like to use my thumb, wrap the yarn around it like so, slip my needle under the yarn between my thumb and the yarn, pull my thumb out, and pull taut. Repeat that about 10 more times until you have a total of 12 stitches. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So I'm going to teach you, gonna run through the basics. The basic knitting, then the basic purl, then the basic knit, the basic purl, and then I'm going to combine the two to show you how to knit, then alternate between knitting and purling on the same row. Then, after that, I'm going to show you how to do a basic cable knit stitch. For that, you'll need a third stitch holder. I'm using a double-ended bamboo knitting needle. This actually comes with 3 others. I think it actually may come with 5. It may come in a pack of 5, but I might be wrong. Anyways, so what you do for knitting is you take your knitting needle, you take both knitting needles, the one with the, since I'm right-handed, I'm holding the one with the stitches on it in my left hand. I'm taking my right needle, slipping it, pressing it against the other needle below the first stitch here, and I'm slipping it in the little loop that I created. I don't want it to be too loose, so I'm going to pull this a little snug. Then I'm going to take the long end that's attached to the skein of yarn, wrap it around and between the needles, like so. Then I push this needle, then I pull this needle back a little bit so that it can pass easily by the other needle. Then I'm going to push it past and and grab this bit of yarn and pull it off. Then I'm going to repeat. Now around off. Now the first row is the most difficult. Try to keep your stitches loose, but not too loose. It's kind of hard to explain. So yeah. Tween, or in the loop, around, hook, pull off. 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 Loop, around, hook, off. Loop, around, hook, pull off. I've been knitting technically since I was a little kid. I used to hang out with my grandmother all the time. And then I turned 9. And something happened that I really won't go into detail because it's just personal life incidences. You know, life happens. Which is not a pretty stitch. And yeah. So she and I used to sit, and I used to be so tight with knitting that I would just be all hunched up and be physically unable to get the needle between the needle under the yarn. And funnily enough, neither could she. So I would usually quit and get her to cast on some more stitches, essentially wasting her yarn. Wasn't I a right little snot? So anyways, yeah. Then, once you reach the end of your row, take the needle that you were using and turn it, because now you'll be using the other one. So, take your knitting needle and do the same thing as you did with the first row. Also, I'm going to warn you guys, I have a really fat cat, and he likes attention sporadically, so if he jumps up, don't be alarmed. He's my cat. Now, what you're going to notice is there's going to be a rough texture, and that's alright. Beginners, don't be alarmed. I actually really only learned to knit properly, like with comfortable loose stitches, when I went to a private school, a private religious school, and by the way, that's going to be something that I will not be answering questions on. That, sex, and politics, no. So yeah. While I was there, my other grandmother, who was really into crocheting, showed me how to do the very basic cast on, the yarn around the thumb trick. Now, oh, and something else you might notice, I do sporadically put my needle into my mouth sometimes, you know, just keeping stuff stored. Make it easier instead of just setting my needle down constantly. So yeah. Now that I've got 2 rows, what I'm going to do is show you guys how to do a very basic purl. So actually, knitting and purling are both very basic stitches. And if you can't get it, that's alright. It's kind of difficult if you're not familiar with it. So yeah, what you do is you take your needle, and the same way you did with knitting, except instead of pushing it away from you, you push it towards you. Towards you, over your left shoulder. Then pull it around, and your yarn is going to end up facing you. Then repeat. And what that's going to do is create a very smooth pattern. I'll knit a few rows like this and show you the results, alternating between knitting and purling. I remember last year I knitted everyone hats. Actually, like this one. Now this is a very simple pattern, and if you guys are interested, I'll be sure to show you how to make this pattern. It's just alternating between knitting and purling. Knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, until you reach this spot. When you cast off half, then knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. And then you get to the top where you pull everything off, or cast off, you get 10, then pull everything off and pull a loop, pull tight, and there you go. So yeah. Like I said, if you guys are interested, I'm more than willing to show you guys. But yeah, back to knitting. I find knitting so soothing. And for those that say knitting is just for old folks, honey, if you're ever going to be good at something, you may as well start now. That way you can be knitting giant sweaters for thousands of people all over the world who are in global crisis during the sudden cold snap or ice age that sporadically hits. Fantasy. But it's also a good survival skill. Knitting can be really useful. If you ever fall on hard times and all you have is some yarn, needles, and some yarn and needles, pick up the needles, pick up the yarn, and knit. Maybe if you're proficient enough, you might even be able to sell it. Never know. The irony is, I speak about selling yarn work, but I haven't even made a single sale. And yeah, I've been knitting since I was a kid. Something my grandmother also gave me is a big book of a big book of stitches. Sorry if you guys can hear the loud buzzing in the background. I have a really noisy fish tank, and for some reason the motor, which is normally very quiet, suddenly decided to start screaming like a dying whale. So, yeah. Yeah, so this is what alternating between knitting and purling does. This was only knitting. This is alternating between knitting and purling. So yeah. Now I'm going to show you guys how to alternate between knitting and purling in a row. So we're going to start out by knitting. We're going to knit 2, then purl 2. Knit 2. Then take your yarn, bring it around the needle and towards yourself. Then, as you would with purling, purl 2. Then yarn around so it's away from you. knit 2, yarn toward you, purl 2, yarn away, knit 2, yarn toward, purl 2, yarn away, knit 2. Oh, and the snoring you may be hearing, that's my really fat cat. Then, the opposite side, what you're going to do is purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, purl 2, yarn away, knit 2, yarn toward, knit, and yarn, purl 2, yarn away, knit 2, yarn toward, purl 2, and so on and so forth until you end with purl 2. Yarn away, 2, toward, purl 2, and you can already sort of see the checkerboard pattern this creates. The smooth mixed with the rough. So yeah, those are the basic stitches for the cable knit stitch. So, what we're going to do is what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to knit a couple rows, alternating between knitting and purling. And then I'm going to show you the full method for the cable knit stitch, which creates this pattern here. You can often find these like on sweaters and such, and sometimes on hats and scarves. Really, it's more of an aesthetic thing, though I personally find that it can be a little bit breezy as it does create a little hole where the twist occurs. Oh. Now you'll find that you're a little bit slower with knitting, and that's okay when you first start out, and that's okay. Speed comes with time. Practice makes perfect, and it also creates, well, proficiency and speed. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start out by purling 3. 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to yarn away to yarn over or yarn away from you and knit 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I may have cast on a few extra stitches, but that's okay. I cast on 14 stitches. Oops. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to need to make a few adjustments. He's insane.